We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back. I'm Bettina Lawton, and I'm your host, and we are continuing to talk about the 2019 elections in Fairfax County. And this time we're going to turn towards the southern part of the county again with the Lee District. We've got a very vigorous primary out there, and Rodney Lusk is one of the folks running. Rodney is a native Virginian and has served his community as a Fairfax County employee for the past 29 years. Currently, he is the marketing director for the Fairfax County Economic Development Authority, where he acts as the Fairfax County ambassador to the rest of the country, leading the campaign to attract new jobs and industry to our community. And beyond the scope of his professional work, Rodney advocates on behalf of our community through his work on local boards and initiatives, including the Fairfax County Committee to Prevent and End Homelessness, Leadership Fairfax, which is the first place I met Rodney,
Yes.
the Southeast Fairfax Development Corporation, Embark Virginia Highway. Rodney is an 18-year resident of the Lee District, where he lives with his wife Jacqueline and his daughters Sheridan and Addison. And again, he's running for supervisor in the Lee District. So welcome, Rodney.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much.
I'm glad to have you. So why do you want to be Lee District supervisor? You sound like you got this great job. I'm like, can I have your job if you win?
Well,
could
it'll be open. I guess you have to apply.
I could apply.
So I have been living in this area my entire life. So I grew up in Alexandria City, spent a lot of time on the historic Richmond Highway corridor. I've had the opportunity to work there in a number of different positions. In high school, it's kind of surprising, I worked at the Wendy's on Richmond Highway. I worked at the Bradley Center, if people even know what the Bradley's was, from many years ago. So that's the current Target. I've had the pleasure of working at the old Chuck E. Cheese building when I worked in human services as well. So this community is in my DNA. My grandparents raised me in the city of Alexandria. I absolutely love this place. So I'm committed to making it better. I've got two daughters, you mentioned them, Addison and Sheridan. They're both at Hayfield Secondary School, and we're very proud of the education that they've gotten there. I recognize, though, there are going to be some challenges in the district. We've got to figure out how we can address affordability of housing in the future, because there's a number of folks, whether they be public sector, whether they be new entrants into the workforce, or whether they be seniors who just can't afford to live in this marketplace. Second, we've got to think about how do we bring more investment and more business into Fairfax County. This is something I do in my regular work, but I have to think about how do we do it specifically in Lee District. So along the historic Richmond Highway corridor in central Springfield. And we want to do that because we want our residents to have access to employment in the area that they live. And we also want them to be higher paying jobs so they can support their families and be able to be more productive members of our community. And then last, there's this issue about education and workforce. We've got to figure out for the hiring of people in technology positions, there are specific skills they have to have. So we have all these jobs in our market and they just sit kind of vacant. And that's a problem. So we've got to look at our K through 12 programs and figure out how we can do a better job of preparing our kids for the jobs of the future. And then we need to think about those who are in kind of lower paying jobs who want the opportunity to get skills so they can kind of build themselves up and qualify for some entry-level technology positions. So these are things that I'm passionate about, things that I care about, and this is why I'm running for Lee District Supervisor.
Okay, so when you talk about the education, because that's a lot of both getting more people into college, but also doing the technology side.
It is.
How does all of that work? You've got ideas for how to try and do that? Because I know there are some of the schools have academies for different things. Is that is that something that's possible? What do you think needs to be done?
So one of the things that I've advocated in this campaign is I want to build what they call an innovation district. So an innovation district is an idea where you basically bring together an academic institution, which would be something like Northern Virginia Community College, or even include George Mason University. You add an incubator or accelerator component to that as well. And then the companies that you attract into the incubator get the services from the university and the services of the incubator so they can do what? So they can graduate and then locate their business in other parts of the Richmond Highway corridor. The plan is to be able to cycle companies through and have those companies take property, real estate along the corridor so we can jumpstart the reinvestment and the activity there. Also, we'll have an opportunity for our high schools to participate with those companies because they'll have opportunities for the kids to do internships, apprenticeships, other ways for them to get connected to understanding what's new in technology and what areas they might have interest in. My idea is that we can provide jobs in the community in which people live. The idea of having people have to traverse across the county, Tyson's has lots of opportunities, Reston has lots of opportunities, but why aren't there any opportunities in the place that we live?
Right. That's quite a schlep from your area to get all the way over to Tyson's or Reston every day, particularly in rush hour.
And there's no easy metro access, right? You've got to switch metros, it just takes hours. So that's not necessarily the best path either.
Right.
Okay.
You talk about Embark Richmond.
Yes, ma'am.
Richmond Highway. So
yes.
What is that?
Okay, so this is a planning exercise that was done over the last 2.5 years. So the idea with Embark is we'll take some of those older shopping centers. If you think about where the Lowe's and the Giant are located, that's Beacon. So at Beacon, we would convert that into a mixed-use project. So you'd have office, retail, and residential all in one place. You could build what would be essentially like a town center, similar to what we see here at the Mosaic project. We want to have open space, green space for people to kind of come in, aggregate, listen to concerts, participate in other activities. I think the beauty of the Beacon site is it's the highest elevation in Fairfax and also the highest elevation in Lee District. We could have taller buildings, which would have great views over to Washington, D.C. So I think we've got an opportunity to make a dramatic change in the landscape of the corridor and to give additional opportunities for employment, again, for the residents who live right on that highway.
Now, am I right, and I
Sure.
very likely could be wrong on this, Rodney, but
Sure.
is the other side of Lee Highway in Mount Vernon, or does the Lee District have both sides?
So what happens is the highway is sort of bifurcated between the two districts. So on the east side of it, you're in Mount Vernon District. On the west side of it, you're in Lee District. So you're exactly right.
Okay.
So we have to partner. So all the decisions that we're making are going to be in partnership with the Mount Vernon District. So Dan Sturck is a person that I'll be working very closely with if I'm elected to be Lee District Supervisor. And I see the opportunity for us to work jointly on a number of different projects.
Okay, and you have, if I'm recalling your history right, you have experience on the Planning Commission and getting this type of thing done.
I do. So if you look at the Springfield Mall redevelopment, I was very involved in first doing the plan amendment for it and then the redevelopment of it. So if you can imagine, there was a time when that mall was a place no one wanted to go to.
It was terrible. I remember.
It's sad, right?
Yeah,
so
it
this was a mall at one time that had, Princess Diana come and visit. So to think that it went from that to the decrepit state it became, and then we've now resurrected it in many ways to make it a much better facility that many enjoy on a daily basis, and some of us, we try to go on a weekly basis.
Well, there's a lot of good stuff over there. I have to tell you, I was totally shocked when I went a few years ago and saw the change, because I just remember it when it was decrepit and slightly dangerous.
At one point it was. Like you would not go in that mall by yourself. The thing that I remember, which is really sad, is my daughter and I were going through, and the only places we would go would be Macy's and the Target. But then one day my daughter said, well, can we just walk to the mall? So we would walk into the mall, and I could see all these cans and buckets inside the mall, and I'm thinking, why do they have all these buckets? Because they had a leaky roof, and they were just trying to capture the water with those buckets.
Yeah.
That is all gone now. The place is magnificent.
It's fabulous.
It's impressive, and we've got to do more.
And you've also got, the other thing I'd noticed when I was there is you have the mall itself, but all of the surrounding areas have all been redeveloped now and have other sort of standalone type companies and food places and all kinds of good stuff. So it's not just the mall. That whole area has been revitalized.
Yeah, so the thing that's going to happen in the future is that mall is going to become a town center. So what we'll see there is apartment buildings, we'll see a hotel, and we'll see more high-intense retail. So I think in the future, it's going to be a very different place than it is even today.
So I do want to say, because I always get
Sure.
confused about the Lee District, because Springfield Mall is in the Lee District.
in the Lee District.
And I always think it should be in the Springfield
I
District.
know, because it says Springfield Mall, but
Right,
no, it's in the Lee
exactly.
District.
So that is in the Lee District.
It is definitely in the Lee District.
Okay, so anybody who's not too sure
Yeah, where they are.
where they are, look
Exactly.
it up on the vote.virginia. It'll tell you which district you're in.
I got another landmark for you. So when I was on the Planning Commission, I had the opportunity to work on the Wegmans project. So this is at Hilltop. So we did the plan amendment for it, we did the rezoning for it, and today that place goes like gangbusters. You can barely get in there on a Saturday or a Sunday. So, and my wife, if she's ever missing, I can find her at the Wegmans.
That's where you can find her.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, it sounds like a great experience that you might be able to bring down to the Beacon
Yeah.
Mall area, because
That's
that it would be a good place to do it.
Sure.
Let's talk about some environmental stuff as we
Sure.
sort of wind up.
Sure.
Fairfax County
Yes.
adopted this Fairfax Green Initiative.
Yes.
A number of years ago, when Jerry Conley was the chair, as you may recall, they
Yes.
did the Cool Initiatives, or the Cool
Cool
Fairfax,
Counties.
Cool Counties,
They did.
which didn't seem to do too much.
Right.
So how optimistic are you, how committed are you to
Yeah.
addressing those kinds of issues?
So I'll give some credit here. Supervisors Faust, McKay, and Stork were the ones who were the authors of that amendment or that board matter. So the beauty here is that gives us the opportunity to establish some short-term and long-term recommendations for how we deal with the environmental issues and climate change in Fairfax County. So in the short term, we're going to do things like put solar panels on schools, we're going to change LED lights with street lights, and that's going to make a big difference in terms of cost savings and more energy efficiency. The interesting thing is I think there's more than 50,000 street lights that are going to be converted to these LEDs. And as a result of that, it's going to reduce the carbon by 31.4 million tons per year. It's like a huge number. And it's going to save us like $1.4 million a year in electricity use. So doing good things for the environment also has the opportunity to save money for the county. Now, the other thing I'll say is that I appreciate and recognize the aspirations of the new Green Deal, and I recognize the Green New Deal has some components in it that we're going to have to work towards them. So the idea of getting to carbon neutral is something that we've seen that the Sierra Club has talked about. We've also seen the Faith Alliance talk about that with their Fairfax to Zero proposal, and it's great.
Tell people how they can find you.
So please feel free to visit my website. It's at luskforsupervisor.com. And thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today.
Well, I appreciate
Enjoyed
you
it.
coming, and good luck. You've got a number of folks, but
I do.
you won the
Straw poll.
last weekend, so you should be in great shape.
Well, I'm doing everything I can.
All right. Thanks a lot for coming.
Yes, thank you.